Today I was going to do something very different than this, but I got a phone call actually from my wife, and I'm going to read this out. And this is beyond serious. I've contacted my MP. I blew up at them. I'm sorry for them, but I was so angry. You've just got to read this. This is just unbelievable that they can do this, that they think they can do it, which they can't. I'm going to read it as best I can. I'm furious right now. A Liberal backbencher who introduced an anti-Islamophobia motion that unanimously passed the Ontario legislature Thursday says, despite all party support, she has received racist backlash. No, you've received free speech backlash. The motion from Natil D. Rosses called on the legislature to stand against all forms of hatred, hostility, prejudice, racism and intolerance, rebuke a growing tide of anti-Muslim rhetoric and sentiments, and condemn all forms of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not a real word. It's a left-wing made-up word. It passed as the federal government weighs a similar motion that has sparked controversy in the House and Commons and beyond. Desrosiers, whatever that person's name is, introduced the provincial motion December 1 in response to incidents in her Ottawa-Vanier riding, such as anti-Muslim graffiti and a young woman wearing hijab who was spat on. She said, "Where's the evidence? It took an extra urgency after 6 men were shot at a mosque in Quebec," she said. That's in Quebec. You don't want discrimination to become internalised, whatever that means, for all people to stop seeing themselves as full citizens and having the ability to contribute fully in a society. That is the reason you need to denounce hatred, discrimination, Roses says, whatever. The Attorney General, Yazir Naqvi, who is a Muslim, and said Muslims and Canadians across the country were shaken by the violence in the mosque. The day after the shooting in Quebec, a father called the community office asking in the morning if it was safe for him to send his son to school. He said, "That's not the society we live in. That's not the society we're building. Parents should not be fearful for a nanosecond whether they should send their kids to school. That's not what this is about at all." Here we go. Premier Kathleen Wynne said, as a lesbian, some people had tried to discourage her from running in the riding with a large Muslim population. She disagreed and said that she spoke to the community members. They discussed their differences, but also what binds them together, such as values about health, education and family. It's those commonalities that make it possible for us to create this country, to create this province, and that's why it enrages me, and it enrages me that we still have to have this conversation globally, she said. Progressive Conservative leader Patrick Brown, who does not represent his population, said Ontario's legislature unequivocally opposes Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not a real thing. It's a made-up thing by the left-wing media. Islamophobia is real, and we have to condemn it unreservedly, he said. No matter the colour of your skin, which part of the world you come from, what language you speak, whether you attend a mosque on a Friday, a synagogue on a Saturday, or a church on a Sunday, every distinct element of who we are as a people comes together to form this beautiful mosaic that is Canada. The Tories' support means the Ontario motion has not generated a political debate seen over a similar item in the House of Commons. However, De Roses said that the Liberal MP Ikra Kahid, who moved the Ottawa motion, has received nasty, quite racist comments. Navi said, or whatever his name is, he is disturbed by the tone and level of the debate that the federal motion has generated. This is not one of those issues that one starts quibbling about. That is about making a fundamental statement against hatred and anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and any form of hatred. A number of federal Conservatives, including several leadership contenders, argue that Ottawa's motion singles out one religious group over another, potentially curtail freedom of speech because it doesn't define the term Islamophobia. This guy, Naqvi, whatever his name is, dismissed the argument, saying there is no competition between the kind of hatred that you do condemn. NDP leader Andrew Howarth said more must be done to tackle intolerance, prejudice, blah, blah, blah. Okay, enough of that. I want to say this. Listen to this and listen good. Ontario has zero right. Ontario politicians of all stripes have zero right to change anything that is in the Charter. Anything. Section 2 of the Charter. Fundamental freedoms. Section 2. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. A. Freedom of conscience and religion. B. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, and D. Freedom of association. That is in the Charter. That is not a provincial document. That is a charter, which is part of the Constitution Act of 1982. The Constitution Act of 1982 that contains the Canadian rights and freedoms. Because the Charter is part of the Constitution, this is the law of the land in Ontario, Quebec, and every other darn province in this country. It's the law. It cannot be amended. Because the Charter is part of the Constitution, no part of it can be changed by a federal or provincial government. The House of Commons, the Senate, and 2/3 of the provinces representing 50% of Canadians must approve any change in the Charter or any part of the Constitution. My Canadian friends, my Canadian politicians, Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, I don't care which province you're in, you can't do that. You cannot issue a law that interferes with the Charter. It is unconstitutional and illegal. I don't care whether you have the majority of the House of Commons, be it provincial or federal. It makes no difference. You do not have the electoral right. You do not have the remit to do this. It is illegal and unconstitutional. And further, it will create a constitutional crisis in Canada. And further, I wish to point this out, I'm going to keep saying this, Section 319 of the Criminal Act also is unconstitutional because it looks to change Section 2 of the Charter. Again, illegal. But this act that they're trying to put through Parliament, is unconstitutional. There must be some lawyers out there who can fight this because the Conservatives with Patrick Brown are in favour of it. They clearly don't know the law. They don't know what the Charter is. They don't know what it stands for. It's unconstitutional. I'm going to say this. If you think this is good, what do you think's coming next? If we don't fight this, if we don't stop this, this won't be the end. This won't be the end by a long chalk. I have contacted my MP today and left a message, a very strong message. And he's a Conservative. And I've told him point blank that if he doesn't fight this, if he doesn't reject this, he's going to be looking for a new job because we're not having this. We're not being told by any ethnic group, be it Muslims, Hindus, Christians, whatever it is, that we can't say what we want, when we want, where we want. It's in the Charter. And Trudeau, if you don't bloody like it, leave the frigging country.